In the shadows of colonial exploitation and the glare of racism, one woman's journey is considered by many as the embodiment of colonial exploitation, racism, and mockery. Sarah Baartman was taken to Europe in 1810 to be exhibited in human zoos. This is her story. But before we start, a quick message from our sponsor. Chapter 1: Origins. Born around 1789 near the river in the Kamtabo Valley located in the eastern part of South Africa, Sarah Baartman, also known as Saki, was an African woman belonging to the Khoisan ethnic group. The Khoisan, also known as the Khoikhoi, Khoi, or Koko people, are a group of indigenous people of southwestern Africa, primarily in South Africa and Namibia. The name Khoikhoi means men of men or people of people, while Khoisan refers to the linguistic and genetic heritage of the Khoikhoi and San people. Scientists consider them to be the oldest human beings on the planet. At some point they even represented the majority of the human beings on the planet. Her mother died when she was a child, but despite her circumstances, Sarah was described as independent and hardworking from a young age. When she was a young teenager, her father was also taken from her, having been killed while doing his job as a cattle driver. Orphaned, she went to Cape Town. During the 1800s, a free black trader named Peter Caesar came across her and later convinced her to move to Cape Town, which had recently come under British control. Although records state she was persuaded, given the situation at the time, it's more likely that Sarah was forced to go. She worked in Cape Town for 2 years, first as a nurse mate to Peter and later as a servant to a Dutch man. It was during this time that she would be renamed Sarki by her new Dutch employers, a diminutive form of her name in Dutch. She worked as a free woman but in conditions similar to those of a captive. She then settled in the house of Peter Caesar's brother, known as Hendrik Caesar, where she lived among the family's slaves. Despite not having the same social status, she likely had 2 children who died young and had a relationship with a Dutch soldier named Hendrik van Jones. This relationship ended when his regiment relocated, breaking Sarah's heart. For years, she continued working as a servant and wet nurse until she made the acquaintance of a Scottish military surgeon named William Dunlop. Dunlop was a Scottish military surgeon who worked with various Cape slave organizations and provided individuals for 19th-century human zoos. He suggested to Sarah Baartman to go to England to make money by performing in popular exotic-themed shows of the time. Sarah initially refused, but she eventually agreed on the condition that her employer, Hendrik Caesar, accompanied her. Initially hesitant, he eventually agreed to go to England in 1810 to oversee the contracts and performances of the young Baartman. So, on April 7, 1810, the HMS Diadem set sail for London, and it is uncertain whether Sarah left willingly or was forced by the men. Supposedly, on October 29, 1810, Sarah signed a contract in which she agreed to work as a servant and exhibit herself for entertainment purposes. However, Sarah was illiterate and the contract was in English, so she was unable to read its contents. It's likely that she was forced to sign, and the lack of a copy meant the men exploiting her could modify the contract as they pleased. Despite the men's mistreatment, there were 2 benefits in the contract that gave Sarah hope. It stipulated that after 5 years, she could return to South Africa and receive a portion of the earnings from the show. Chapter 2: London.